And I have today with me an awesome friend of mine, Rachel Smith, who is a incredible. I don't even have words, Rachel. Like you're the most, you are the most frugal person I know. Like every time I look, I have little bags of silicon. You know those little bags of silicon that you get when you buy new things, and I shove them in a drawer somewhere. I think of you.
Do you? Oh.
No,
That's
because
funny. Yeah.
I think it was you who told me, oh yeah, you should save those and use them, for dehumidifying things or something like that. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
it was
yeah.
you.
Yeah, they're really
Yeah.
good actually for putting in your shoes. Like if you've got like
Ah.
hiking shoes and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, there
Yeah.
you go. Yeah. So Rachel, tell everybody a little bit about you. You're the author of Underspent. I think you've authored other books as well. Tell us all
Yeah.
about you.
I have like two kind of businesses going. One's more a social enterprise and one is a business. So my business or my social enterprise, Underspent, is helping people to break the habit of impulse shopping and basically buying things that they probably don't need and want. So we live in a consumer society where marketing is all about making us feel dissatisfied or discontent with what we've already got. So we're always or continually striving to buy more or new things. And then my business, my day job, I have an international transport planning and demand management consultancy. And we're all about managing demand rather than responding to demand. So really in the transport and engineering space. So we're all about, instead of building new roads, that we use the existing roads and infrastructure more more efficiently for the good of everyone, and all about solving real problems facing real people in real places. So two
Awesome.
very different businesses.
Yeah, they really are different. Hey, wow. And I know that you used to work for a big corporation. So how long have you been doing the consultancy work for?
So I left consultancy in December 2015, and it's actually I'm
Oh,
really
wow.
happy that I've been like contracting and working and having my own business, because now I'm not sure I'd want to be working at home if I had an employer. I think it's a really interesting and brave time for those of us who are entrepreneurs or business owners or startups. I think now's the time to be a leader and setting the direction for the future. So really glad that I made the jump when I did.
Fantastic. I've gone the opposite way.
Mm.
That's a whole other
Yeah.
story. Okay, Rachel. So paint a picture for me about what it was like for you when everything shut down.
So I had been in New Zealand. So I was in New Zealand from about the 10th until Friday, the 13th of March. And so the pandemic was made official on the Thursday. And I'd been really dubious about going to New Zealand, to be honest, because I wasn't worried about being in New Zealand, but I was worried about getting stuck there. So, and then I left on Friday the 13th. So I'd been staying in a hotel with lots of American tourists and a big
Mm.
Kontiki tour. So I was thinking, and I had been really rubbish at washing my hands, because the day before, oh no, the Sunday, I was doing loads of gardening and I moved the wooden outdoor table, and a part of the table, it's quite old, had got stuck in my finger, and I ended up at the Prince
Oh.
Charles Hospital on the Sunday afternoon with 4 doctors getting a huge splinter and a piece of wood out of my finger. So I had my fingers all bandaged up. So I could only wash one hand really well, and the other hand I had to partially wash. So I was a little bit worried. So I did spend like pretty much all of the first 2 weeks then at home. So I think I'm in week 7 now of lockdown. So I work at home anyway, so that part wasn't different. But I found the big thing that I found in lockdown is that I've been really disorganized. And
Mm.
so I found it really hard to be motivated to get downstairs at like 9 o'clock in the morning. And I felt like I've been really disorganized and trying to do loads of things, pivot my business, change things. And at times I felt a bit overwhelmed. So it's been interesting, but I feel I'm on the right side now. I've gone through the tough stuff and out the other side. So a really interesting period that I'm glad I've had, and I'm glad I've been forced to endure, if that's the right word.
Yeah, yeah. So have you found that it's affected your business at all, like in terms of your workload and what work coming in?
Yeah, so we've gone from good to bad. So we're on Jobkeepers. So we had 100% decline in turnover. So, and that was partly my fault. I had a lot of international work and work that was interstate. So I didn't have any local Brisbane work. And so travel stops everything. So, but yeah, we're changing, we're productizing, how the entrepreneurs tell you, have the proper product ecosystem. We didn't have that. We were trading time for hours. So it's the wake up call and the kick up the bum that we needed. So it's good.
Yeah, right. Wow. So I guess what I'm hearing is before the pandemic, you were really focused on your international business, on travel, on doing all those things, time for hours, and just clocking up the consulting hours. And now that's changed. And so
Yep.
what are you seeing now as what's really important right now, and what are the opportunities you're seeing that you might not have seen before?
So what's really important now is really making a lifestyle business. So that's not about sitting on the beach for 5 days a week, but really about
We're
doing
not allowed.
no, yeah, yeah, you can't do that anyway. So um, and so people think a lifestyle business means that you're slacking off and you're just going to sit on the beach. And it's not that at all. But it's about really going back to values and ethics and morals. So for me, that's how I interpret that. So working with clients that we really want to work with, doing what we really want to do, working with people, other businesses that have got the similar or the same clients. I'm not really motivated by money. Financial security is really important to me. But I don't need to be a multi-millionaire or a billionaire. That doesn't interest me in the least. But doing really good work, doing it well. And I would say the other big thing that's really important is solving real problems, facing real people in real places. I want us to be a business that's doing really good work, and that we're remembered for solving problems and purpose over profit.
Yeah. I would think that your book, Underspent, would be very popular at the moment. Has it been?
You think? It's not.
I would
No.
think. No,
Yeah.
really.
No, I feel sad, not in, you know how the book world works, the ebook's $2.99. I think I get like 10 cents a book or something. And that's fine. I never did it for the money. I did it to share my journey and to document my own journey, really. But I've been really surprised that it's not really taken off. But I think there's loads of really different things happening. So people are at home, and I think people are doing a lot of DIY and home improvement work. So people are spending. I think people are shopping more out of boredom. And I think some people think, and this isn't meant to be patronizing, I think a lot of people think it will go back to how it was and it's okay. We don't need to save money. I think, but I had a session actually yesterday with the producer of the project and Weekend Today, and I think they think that we are the underspent, shopping less, buying less, saving a bit more will be really prevalent in the next few months. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that the whole, I mean, what do you think of the whole government stimulus thing? Like, the way I look at it is that it's fine as a short-term thing, but um, the shit hasn't really hit the fan. You know what I mean? Like, because we're being cushioned a little bit with the government stimulus. I mean, what's your take on that?
So my accountant did my Jobkeepers because I had no idea Like, I'm really rubbish at. I'm really good at saving money. So in my business, I'll put all them. I've got different bank accounts. One for GST, one for PAYG, one for company tax. I do all of that. The money's there, but I hate anything to do with bookkeeping. It's really hard
I hear you,
to
sister.
do. Yeah, I'm like terrible. And but it's okay because the money's always there. So it's not the issue with paying. It's just it's boring. I'm not interested in the detailed stuff like that. It's really hard to understand all of that legislation unless you're an accountant or a lawyer. And I actually, and I don't qualify for some of it because my work was mostly overseas and that work is exempt. If I was a business,
Wow.
if I was a business with employees, I'd be really worried because having the cash to keep them going would be a real struggle. I don't think the money comes through until next week. And so, yeah, I reckon a lot of businesses would be in a lot of pain at the moment with keeping pay going. And, if you've got people working for you full-time or part-time as employees, it's a lot of responsibility because you're responsible for them paying their mortgage or their rent and feeding their kids and all of those other things. So being a business, but perhaps it's made people realize that being a business owner is actually a real responsibility that
Yeah.
perhaps
Yeah.
isn't so prevalent during the boom times or good times. Yeah.
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 And look, I mean, small businesses, they always struggle with cash flow anyway. I mean, traditionally.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of wondering, like, how many businesses that have temporarily closed, how many of those do you think will just call it a day?
Oh, loads. I can't say
Mm.
that I don't know that I won't shut my business by the end of the year. No one's got
Yeah,
any
right.
guarantees. I mean, I've been doing lots of bids and tenders and creating new partnerships with other smaller or medium-sized boutiques and some big tier one consultancies. So I see lots of opportunity, but it still depends on money coming through the door. I mean, we've all got insurances and things to pay. I'm lucky I have a home office here downstairs. So, I don't have any rent or anything to pay. But yeah, I've got loads of friends who are renting commercial property and are really struggling. In fact, before this, I was on a Future of Work and Business podcast, and the people there were saying, most businesses with commercial space will be trying to get out of their lease as
Mm.
soon as possible, or
Mm.
just break their lease or do whatever.
Yeah,
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 so there is a lot of uncertainty at the moment.
yeah, yeah. And I've really noticed, like, we've been, looking at houses to move into. My partner and I are making the move, moving in together. And
Wow.
yeah, I know, huge change. You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, yeah.
Darren's probably going, oh God, what is she saying now? Hello, if you're listening, which I'm sure he is. He loves listening to this. So, um, yeah, anyway, we've been looking at rentals because I've been in this house for a while now, and I thought, it'd be nice just to have a fresh start somewhere. And
Yeah.
have noticed the prices have really gone down.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah, really gone down. And there's been houses like on the rental market for weeks now. I mean, I've not been seriously looking, but I've been, because I mean, it's difficult to move in the middle of all this, but
Yeah.
I have been keeping an eye on it and really noticed that it is definitely a buyer's market or a renter's market at the moment, which is a real turnaround to a couple of years ago, when they'd hold open inspections and there'd be like 20 people lined up to go through an open inspection. So it's massive. Do
Actually,
you have,
I was going to say
go ahead.
when I first came here in 2007, and I didn't know where to live. I came here in the middle, when they were building the Clem 7 tunnel and all those big infrastructure projects. And and we don't in the UK, they don't have that open for inspection. You just organise a time and you go on your own with the estate agent or the real estate agent. And
Mm,
and the first one I went to, there were about 50 people outside, and I was like, and they're like, well, no, you have to sign in, and it was like, by the time you had got through the queue and signed in, you had like 2 minutes to look around and someone had already taken it. They were like, oh, it's gone already. And it was
Wow.
absolutely nuts. Yeah. But so, yeah, those
Yeah.
times have changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is nuts. That's really
Mm.
crazy. Gosh. Um, so I would like you to share, if you don't mind, a little bit about your journey and how you developed your book Underspent, because I actually do think that it's would be a very, very useful tool for people listening. And I know for me, like I was really inspired by your book. Um, and it's definitely given me more of a frugal mindset. So, and I was terrible with I was terrible with money, and I'm now doing the whole barefoot investor method and got my buckets sorted, and it's liberating because
Yep.
I have my bucket of money, that's my splurge account, which he talks about in his book. And I love it because it's like it's guilt-free spending. Like, and I sit there and
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm like, I can actually, the shops were shut the other night and I was going to make food, but I couldn't because the shops were shut and I didn't have anything. And I went, okay, well, what can I do? And I thought, well, I've been absolutely dying for some Mongolian lamb ribs. Sorry to all the vegans out there. And so I went to the local Chinese shop, and I was like, man, these are so expensive. But I was just like, you know what? I have money in my splurge account. This is awesome. I don't feel guilty about it. It's just there for my pleasure. So, and that's a whole new concept for me. So
And
tell
that's
me a
what,
bit about, yeah, sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
And that's what it's all about. It's not about going without. It's just waiting and spending your money on what's important for you. So I was doing a project a while ago with a lady, and she, or, like a transport project, but we were chatting one lunchtime and she was saying, I love clothes. And she said, so I'm never going to give up buying clothes. And I said, but you buy your lunch and you go and buy like 2 flat whites every day. I said, do you
Yeah.
like those? And she said, no, I hate the like food court lunch. And I don't even like
Mm.
coffee. I just buy them because everyone else does. And I said, so why don't you stop doing those two things and then spend your money on clothes? And she was like, oh, yeah, I get this now. So basically, it's about your priorities and the things that you love. So I love horse riding. I thought I liked cushions and loads of books, but I learned that I like horse riding more. So I spent my money on that. So yeah, yeah. But going
Wow.
back to your original, because I go off on a tangent quite a lot. So
I do
there
too.
were kind of there were yeah, there were three things that really kind of were pivotal in this. Um, so the first was that I was working on a project called the BMW Guggenheim Lab, which was a project between BMW and the Guggenheim in New York, all about cities and life in the future. And
Mm-hmm.
we'd been in New York, and then we were in Berlin, and then afterwards we went to Mumbai. But we were in Berlin, and I used to rent this little tiny like studio apartment. It was tiny. It was great. I loved it. It was so minimalist. And I got invited to this dinner party, and they said, you need to make an apple crumble for like 20 or so people. And this was like about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I needed to be there at like 7. And so, well, I didn't actually know how to make an apple crumble properly, so I had to phone my mum. And then I thought, where am I going to get a baking tray at this time of night? And so there was like a cafe. I lived in like an apartment, like a communist style apartment building. And so there was a cafe downstairs. And I went down to the guy in like my mixture of English and German. And I said to him, I have to go to this dinner party and take this crumble. And he said, go into the kitchen and borrow whatever you want and bring it back when you've finished. And I kind of knew the guy because I'd buy a coffee. Because if you go to like Aldi or a supermarket in Berlin, everyone goes like nearly every day and they buy small stuff. And I was really slow with all the coins. So I'd always hand over notes. So then I'd take the coins to him and he would exchange the coins for notes. So we'd already got this kind of arrangement going. I was really rubbish with the knowing to do it quickly. And so I went out and got what I needed from the kitchen, made this apple crumble, and then I just thought, imagine being in Brisbane or Sydney and going to somewhere, a cafe, and asking to borrow their stuff. Like, That's completely unheard of. And I thought, well,
Yeah.
I didn't need it. Imagine that I'd bought a baking tray. I wouldn't have needed it again. So it was just a pointless purchase. So, and then from there we went um, to Mumbai, and we were very privileged that we could go to some of the slums that you would normally not get to go to. And it was, we were doing some good projects, and we were doing some, meeting people and community groups and entrepreneurs. And it was like, people have got nothing, but what they've got, they really value. And people had contentment. I mean, they hadn't seen all that we've seen, and that's not in a patronizing way, but people had got very little and they really valued stuff. And I thought, we've got so much, but we really don't value what we've got. And then from there, and this sounds like really jet setty, but it's, I went to the UK, it was Christmas. Me and my mum were on my family are in the UK. Me and my mum were on Oxford Street in London, and everyone was shopping to buy the perfect gift for the person who had everything. And people were shopping like the world was ending. And I thought, those people in Mumbai actually valued what they had. And these people are just buying shit that no one needs, for no one even knows why they're buying all this stuff. So on New Year's Eve, without thinking it through, it was obviously deep in my subconscious. I just said, I'm not going to buy anything for a year. And this was going into 2013. And I lasted 13 weeks until the end of April. And I failed because I saw no shopping and not buying stuff as a punishment, like doom and gloom. I was going without, everyone else was getting stuff, I wasn't. And so I failed. And I was really, really angry with myself for the rest of 2013 that I'd failed. So I was like, I'm going to do it again. So I tried again in 2014. And that time I was like, I'm going to see this as a positive. I'll see it as a lifestyle experiment, and also like just a life experiment, and see if I can make it happen. So I succeeded. So it was great. And the other reason is I worked in a big engineering consultancy, and look, I could see the writing on the wall that the world was changing, technology was coming. And I just thought, I'd seen lots of people, their roles had been made redundant, and people got really angry. They were like, but I've got a mortgage, and I've got a car loan, and I've got this, and I've got school fees. And I used to think, you can't blame your shopping and your expenditure on your employer. They just give you a job. So I was like, I want to have financial security, so that if my role gets made redundant, I walk out smiling and it's all good, and I've got a plan, and I'm resilient, and I'm ready for the future. And so I saved my money, and then in December 2015, my role was made redundant, and I manifested it because I wanted it to happen. And but I wasn't angry, because I was like, you can't rely on one business to give you a job for the rest of your life. And we're kind of seeing this now, and it'll be terrible for some people. You see the queues of people at Centrelink, but there's a part of me that says, we're all responsible financially and for our own income, and we have to have that self-responsibility. We can't have a sense of entitlement. So a whole mix of reasons why it happens. And I'm a real believer that, all the ducks line up, and the universe wants you to do something, and you do it, and it teaches you something that you can share to other people.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I totally get where you're coming from with that. And I often wonder, at the moment, like how people are managing emotionally and mentally, because it would have come as quite a shock, the whole closure thing. And even for people like me who have a job, you there's always something in the back of your mind going, I really need to put money away just in case, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know what's happening with the economy. I mean, in the field that I'm in, it's pretty stable, but you just don't know. Like, you really don't. Nothing is certain. In fact, nothing is ever certain, right? Like, nothing's ever certain. But at the moment, it's like that's the illusion of it's just like disappeared, because it's really damn obvious that nothing's certain at the moment. So, yeah.
Oh, I was sitting in my office here the other day and I was thinking, if this was like, say, 2013 and I had a job and I'd been at, impulse shopping, buying clothes and cushions and books and I didn't have that savings and I was still, obsessed with comparing with other people and keeping up with other people and all of that kind of stuff. I was like, I'd be scared shitless.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that I've done the things that I've done. I would not want to be, I'm not saying that my future is going to be any greater or better than anyone else's. I'm just saying I'm glad that I did those things that I did in 2014 and 15. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm grateful that I had a couple of years where we really were doing it pretty tough. And I was a single mother. I was fairly reliant on government. I was fairly reliant on child support. Um, and I was trying to make an income. I was trying to make money and I wasn't succeeding. And I think a lot of it had to do with my whole mindset around it. And it just turned into this spiral effect of like, the story you tell yourself is, oh, I'm no good at this, I'm a failure. And so you end up creating that you're no good at it and you're a failure. Do you know what I mean? And I wasn't a failure at all. Somebody actually said to me, and I'm not saying that to convince anybody, I'm just like, somebody actually said to me we had to, for a leadership program I did last year, we had to list out all the areas of life where we felt we had failed or where we felt we were failures. And when I got to read out my list, and there were things in there like, I left a bad marriage. I had to raise my kids on my own. I had to start from scratch. I had to pay off all the debts from the marriage because they weren't paid. I had to do this. I had to do that. And the woman leading the conference actually she turned and said to me, wow, that doesn't sound like failure to me. She said, it sounds like you're a hero.
Hmm.
And I just was like, what? Like I hadn't looked at it like that at all. I looked at it like I'm just a battler, just a single mom. Like it really, really annoyed me when people would say stuff like that, or they'd assume that you were going to struggle for life because you're a single parent. There's all that stuff going on in here. And I've gone off on a tangent completely now, but I
No,
guess yeah.
but you raise a really good point because loads of people say to me, "Oh, I can't do this," or "You've been, you've had some lucky breaks." Okay, not everyone gets to work with the Guggenheim in New York, but we all, if we say to ourselves that we can't do it or we're going to fail, then we fail. And that's the biggest thing that I took out of my year of no buying was it's really easy to say, oh, this is hard or that's difficult. And we're all actually really awesome. And if we fail, it doesn't matter. We're
Yeah.
all like, what you've achieved is incredible. But we live in a world where there's so much focus on, labeling things and naming things that people just give up trying, if that makes sense, or they feel they shouldn't because people are, oh, I started a business and the next day it was a multi-million-dollar business, and it's like, really? There's so much comparing, and we should just,
Yeah.
and actually COVID-19 is a great a vehicle to stop that comparison, because now we're all in our own homes and we're not going to work and seeing people in their different outfits every day, and we can see people's houses, what they're really like, um, and it's a real
Yeah.
leveler, if that makes sense. But yeah, you should
Yeah.
never, or you shouldn't, no one should ever think, oh, I failed, because, and in fact, taking on a business or starting a business is like is really, you've got to have real guts to do that. And the same with
Yeah.
people leaving a marriage or paying off debt. All of those things take such guts and resilience.
Yeah. And look, I'm not saying I didn't make mistakes. I definitely made mistakes, but I've always prided myself on that I learn from my mistakes, and I really hope that that's true. But I guess, coming into this, the whole idea of, well, if the worst case scenario happened and I lost my job and I ended up back at square one again, um, would I fall to pieces? And the answer is no, because I've been there before and not that long ago. So I know what that's like. I know what it's like to open your kitchen cupboards and go, okay, what store food can we dip into tonight so we can save a few bucks? Like, I know what that's like. And I'm not saying, I'm not trying to paint it like there's some sort of badge of honor for it or anything like that. It's like, I had to get really, really responsible around my finances. Like, and that was hard. I had to
Mm.
actually write everything down and look at it and go, oh shit. I had that moment of looking at everything, where I'd been spending my money, where I'd been irresponsible, and just had to be responsible around it. And that was really confronting. But getting past that moment was really empowering, because then I read Scott Pape's book, and that was really empowering for me. And I started living my life through a different lens, and not looking at myself as a failure, but just going, okay, well, you know what, we we hit a roadblock there. We might have had a failure in performance there, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It just means that didn't work. So let's do something different. Let's try again,
Yeah.
do something else. And, in essence, like, getting a job was like that for me. Like, I had been working for myself for over 25 years on and off. And I prided myself in that. I wrote the damn book on working from home, working for
Mm.
yourself. So the whole idea of getting a job was like, I don't know, that felt like failure in some ways. But I just looked at it differently, and I went, you know what, that could be a new challenge for me. Something that
Exactly.
a new challenge. And
Mm.
so I made it my full-time job to look for a job earlier this year, because things got very tough around the bushfires. And I just
Mm.
went, you know what, I've got to get responsible. And
Yeah.
I thought, why not? I haven't ever really tried to get a full-time job. Why don't I
Yeah.
try? Let's try that, something different. And I've actually been really amazed at the experience of it. For me, the experience has been really quite amazing. Like, I'm learning something new every day, and I actually really enjoy working with a team of people for a change. Like, that is, it's not that you don't work with people when you work for yourself, as you know, as a consultant, but
Mm.
yeah, I've really enjoyed that aspect of it. So anyway, I will stop
That's
talking.
good.
We're here to talk to you. So
But you've actually done underspent step one, which is to identify your passions and your priorities. And your
mm,
priority then was getting a job, and in 2 years' time it might not be. And then you've really identified, the things you love, like maybe getting a different house, or doing. And that's what it's about. It's about people identifying their passions and their priorities, not trying to have a priority that's the same as the next door neighbor, or not having the passion that's the same as their co-worker or their cousin, or just doing what's right for you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So when all is said and done and the pandemic is over and we're all celebrating because we can get out of our houses again,
Yeah.
what's that going to look like for you? And what do you think is going to be important for you moving forward?
Oh, that's a good question. So I would say that I've been preparing for this for a long time. So all the things that I've wanted to do around demand management, rather than just building infrastructure, all of that is at the right time. Do you know what? If I'm really honest, I would say that I've really stepped up as a leader in my industry in the last month or so. I think I was like, oh, well, person X works at that big consultancy. So, and I just have my small little business here. And I probably have put myself down. I've probably lacked the confidence to be
Hmm.
a real leader. And I've been doing the cool stuff. Probably people would think, oh, why is she saying this? She goes off and works with international car companies, and but
Yeah.
I've really stepped up. I've made myself like stand up and do that. And in terms of so I would like to continue doing that. I really want to do more the right work in the right places. And I really would say life looks like much more simple, much more financial security, much more community and people, and much more in the experiences. So I'm like, I used to do loads of surfing and stuff, and I was a scuba diving instructor, and I've let all of those. I don't want to be a scuba diving instructor again, but I don't, I haven't been diving and done some of the stuff, those kind of things for ages. So I definitely want to be doing those kind of things. I'm having a business that is really doing really, really good work as well. Yeah. So I've got down on my little board, which is over there, was being a brave and courageous leader, an expert sharing knowledge, and a leader driving positive change.
Very nice. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So what's the first thing you want to do after this is all over?
Go horse riding on Noosa Beach.
Oh, that sounds amazing, actually. Do you know how long it's been since
Yeah.
I've been horse riding? Like years, like 20, at least 20,
Wow.
probably 30 years. I don't know, a long
Wow.
time. Yeah, I think the last time I went horse riding, oh, not 30 years, I'm not that old. I think I was about 20, 21, 22, something like that.
Wow.
So, yeah, so not 30 years.
And the other thing actually is going and speaking more at like community events. So we met for the first time 4 years ago today at the Planting Festival. I think we'd met at a few entrepreneur things.
Yeah, we had actually. Yeah.
We'd kind of chatted, but not had a proper conversation. Yeah, we met 4 years ago today at the Planting Festival up at Woodford or Woodfordia. So that's quite ironic that we're doing this today.
That is really cool. I
Yeah.
can't believe it was that long ago.
I
I got
know.
you that speaking gig, actually. I remember
Yeah,
that
you
because I
did.
remember.
You did.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. You're
Yeah, you
welcome.
did. Yeah.
Um, I was so happy that you got it because they were like, we need more women in science, women in STEM to get up and speak. We're finding heaps of guys, but where are the women? And
yeah.
I'm like, hey, I know some really cool women, and I mentioned you, and they gave you the gigs, so that was really awesome. Yeah, and look, events like that are struggling like big time. Like I don't even know. Like I go to that event. Well, I go to the Woodford Folk Festival every year, and this year, I feel lost because I'm pretty sure it's not going to be on. If it's not, that I'll be sad, but we'll find something else to do. But it's like that is for me, like, and for a lot of people who go, an annual tradition. Like that is the thing I look forward to every year at the end of the year. So yeah, and there's a lot of things like that are going to be in that ripple effect. Hey, after all the lockdowns are over.
But I'd like to think that people have had time maybe to think actually of how important community and those kind of community collaborative events really are. So, I'm a shareholder, or they call them a careholder, of the Food Connect Shed. And, that's those kind of small micro businesses, and obviously Food Connect are there, and Oz Harvest are there, and lots of social enterprises. I hopefully we'll all realise that those organisations are more important to us and give us more value and have more benefit than maybe our big duopoly supermarkets and our big airlines that want bailouts. The people who are just getting stuff done in the community for the good of all. So
yeah. And look, I've been actually thinking about Food Connect a bit lately too, because there's been a lot of talk about how are we going to innovate after all this is over, and what are we going to do differently that's going to better prepare us for things like this in the future, but also that's going to help us live more sustainably and not be so reliant on the global marketplace. And I was thinking about the whole idea of placemaking and the whole idea of micro energy systems and micro distribution systems and all of this little fantasies been playing out in my mind that, that we'll live in this world where we all have our little villages within larger urban ecosystems. And these are the things that I think about, at night. And
And
it's
you're
fascinating to
right.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right,
Yeah.
because I live in Clayfield near Toomble Shopping Centre. It's like a 5 or 7 minute walk, and like people now walk there to do their groceries. Okay, if you're going to do a
Yeah.
really big shop, you take your car probably, but you see people like trotting up and down the roads, and they go through the park and along the Kedron Brook bikeway. I'd never seen that before. And people have said to
Yeah.
me,
Wow.
oh, you can get over there in 5 minutes. And it's like, yeah, you always have been able to. But now people are
Yes.
like, oh, you can walk there. And it's like, yeah, you always could walk there.
Wow.
But yeah, it's really great that people, and people are putting notes in people's letterboxes, and, there's this and there's that. And did you know this? And, it's really, people have got time now. And someone made a really important comment the other day. It was taking them an hour and a half each way to get to work. So they've got 3 hours extra a day. And it's like 15 hours a week. So, of course, people are buying, like ready meals and all
Yeah.
the Uber Eats. And they're buying, extra clothes because they don't have time to wash and iron them. It's, we've been living in this society and this world that's just been busy and rush and deadlines and working late and being seen to be in the office for like 15 hours a day. And now we're just like, oh, actually, there's this whole different world where you can, do stuff with your kids, and you can cook dinner from scratch, and, you can put washing on in the middle of the day and hang it outside in the sunshine. You don't need a tumble dryer, all of those kind of things. So it's whilst there's a lot of pain, and there's going to be a lot more pain and a lot more job losses, then it's also given us that time that's a leveler where everyone has been forced to stop and then just think differently and slow down.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's what's been really special about this whole experience. Like, we've been through the whole grief curve. I don't know if you saw the article that we published the other day on a survey we did, asking people where they were at in earlier on in the process, asking where they were at individually, but also where their organizations were at. And it was really interesting, the results, because when the individual results were the same as the organization's results, it was really
Yeah.
telling that people were well communicated with, well cared for. But where the results were different, like poles apart, and there was a lot of uncertainty and a lack of transparency, and it was really interesting. Um, and I think that we've all been at different stages. And I'm starting to feel like, I remember being really fearful at the start, like really fearful, and going, this is insane. I mean, it's not even real. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, it's not real. And not saying the pandemic's not real, but it's when you're responding out of fear, the fear is not real. Like, it's fear, it's not real. It doesn't actually
Yeah.
exist. And yet a lot of people have been very fearful, myself included. And I found now, like the last week or so, my mindset around that's really shifted, and I'm just kind of relaxed, and I'm enjoying my daily routine of working from home, enjoying being at home, enjoying going for walks. When I do go out, I take the time to just people watch and dog watch and the whole works.
Yeah.
And it's totally, I think you're right. I think it has enabled us to kind of just reset and take stock and slow down.
Yeah.
It's
And
very, very cool.
I think in the beginning, when it was in, Wuhan and Italy, it was too far away. But when it became here, it was a lived experience. And I think we'll always say that a lived experience and a crisis creates behavior change. And when it's somewhere else, it's not relevant. But once it was here, then we changed our behaviors. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting though, isn't it? Because like Australia has not really been hard hit at all. Like we haven't. And neither has New Zealand. And yet in America, like, people are dropping like flies. I know at least 3 people who've had COVID-19. I know a friend who lost her grandmother to COVID-19. So it is very real when, you're experiencing it and you're actually getting sick. But whereas here, we're not getting sick. Like, very few people are getting sick. So that
and
we
we're
know
almost
of.
and we're almost still slightly isolated here. Whether we have a second peak or whatever, we don't know. So there is still a sense of uncertainty. But yeah, we're not in the, when you see things, I've got friends in New York, and my mum and dad are in the UK, and it's a lot more scary there than it is here. So far, touch wood, we've got away. We've got off from this quite lightly, I guess.
Yeah. Well, something to be thankful for, that we were pretty decisive from the outset. I think that made a huge difference. So, love the government or hate the government, I think that they've done the best they can in a really bad situation.
Oh, yeah.
And I wouldn't want that job. Like,
no.
Yeah. So, I am actually grateful for the work that politicians do through this times, because while I know not very fond of politicians generally, I do think that is a really hard role to take on in something like this. Like, I couldn't imagine doing that job. That would just, lots of, like, I've had sleepless nights. I'm sure you've had sleepless nights during this pandemic, but imagine having to be responsible for all of that. Like, like, really.
And it's
wow.
And it's easy to be critical as a bystander, but none of us, well, I can't be an elected official. I've got 2 passports, but which is an excuse in itself, or cop out in itself. But
Whoops, lost you.
no,
We have lost
very few.
the joys of live streaming.
I'm here.
I've
Can you
lost
hear
Rachel.
me?
I can, but I can't see you. You're gone. Like, your image is gone. But I can still hear
I'm
you.
here.
But that's okay. Yeah, the ghost of Rachel.
Okay.
Because I can't see you at all. You disappeared from the screen.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I think the internet just went schizo and totally just, but that's okay. It's time to wrap up anyway. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a really fascinating discussion. So what's the one thing you want to leave people with in terms of something encouraging for them about looking forward to the future?
I'd say that my greatest hope is that people use this time, and I'm saying it because I'm doing it as well, to really stop and reflect on what's important to them, what their priorities are, what their passions are, and to also have a good look around there. So that's the kind of the thinking bit, and the doing bit is to go through their house and find out all the things that they've already got, all those toiletries, the food, and use up all they've got, because most people have got a lot more assets and resources than they probably think they have.
Yes.
So
yeah, absolutely. I did that with sanitary products, actually. I couldn't believe how many of those I had lying around the house, and I put them all in a cupboard together. So amazing.
So while people are doing their decluttering and they're sorting out, they can be doing their thinking as well.
Absolutely.
A kind of like multitasking. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep. But it's a really important time, and we're probably never ever in our lifetime going to have this type of lockdown again. So I'm trying to use it as wisely as I can.
Fantastic. So I want to acknowledge you, Rachel. This is what I do at the end of the show. I acknowledge people. So I want to acknowledge you for coming on the show. I want to acknowledge you for having those life experiences so that you can share them with other people. Because if you'd never put yourself through that, then you wouldn't be in a position to be able to share your wisdom around saving money and not spending money. And I think at the moment, that's a really important message. And I want to acknowledge you for thinking outside the box and looking at what opportunities are there for your business now, because that takes a lot of courage. So awesome.
Thank you for having me. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, my pleasure. And we'll talk again, I'm sure, after all this is over. And yeah, so if you want to get a copy of Rachel's book, it's on Amazon, I believe. Is that correct, Rachel?
Yeah. Yeah,
Underspent?
and the ebook is $2.99, the paperbacks
Oh, we lost the sound.
$12.99.
$12.99.
You still
Okay,
there?
great.
I made
Yeah.
the ebook affordable, and it's also in the library, so people shouldn't feel
There
that
you
they need to
go.
go and spend
And
money.
spend money.
They can go to the library and borrow either an ebook copy or a paperback copy. And if your library
Brilliant.
doesn't have it, ask them to stock it. That's really important too.
Yeah, fantastic. Wow, that's really great advice. All right, awesome. Have a wonderful evening. And guys, we will see you in just a couple of days, I believe. We've got